What is it like to be born in Melbourne and still feel like split in two? Australian outside and Italian at home? Well, in this episode we talk about that with Carmelina Calabro, who will talk about identity, belonging and what growing up second generation really feels like nowadays. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Crossroads, the Co.As.It podcast where we explore the stories, ideas and journeys that shaped our community. Through personal conversations and lived experiences, Crossroads is a space where different paths meet, where identity, culture and change are always at the center. So take a moment, settle in and join us at the Crossroads. Today we are again with Carmelina Calabro. How are you, Carmelina?
I'm good, thank you, Stefano. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Today it's a very interesting chat we're going to have with Carmelina because, as you know, she's the coordinator of the NextGen program. But today we are not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Carmelina's story because her story is very interesting. So she was born from Italian parents. They moved here many years ago, right?
Many years ago.
And she's like a human bridge, let's say, from two completely different generations, which is a generation that has his roots in the previous century Italy, while Carmelina is more of a contemporary. Her generation is the contemporary generation that grew up in the 90s. So it's two completely different backgrounds, and she has lived a little bit of both the perspective of the Italian culture, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about you. So you were born here in Melbourne.
I was born here and raised here in Melbourne to Italian parents from Sicily, from a coastal town near Milazzo. The town is called Terme Vigliatore. And yeah, I'm in a little bit of a unique situation because my parents had me in their late 50s. And so they both came here in what is the sort of post-war rush, the post-war migration. So dad came in 1957 and mum came on New Year's Eve of 1959. I think dad was 21 and mum was 20 when she arrived. So yeah, for the generation that for most people my age, I'm 30. My parents are what my friends experienced with their grandparents, whereas I experienced it with my parents in a society that was much different to the one that my cousins grew up in, my cousins who were 15, 20 years older than me. So very interesting way to grow up.
You have seen another perspective because you growing up in the 90s, the Italian culture was reshaped already because there were new Italians coming in the 90s and then in the early 2000s, and they were completely different from the generation of your parents. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, through your parents, you experienced racism probably. You saw how they were living. It wasn't easy for them. And I don't know, how it was for you to grow up in a household where I assume they spoke Italian and they were, they had the Italian living style,
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of an interest. I was thinking about it before this interview, kind of what it was like growing up, and I hear the stories that my cousins talk about being discriminated at school and things like that, and that didn't happen for me growing up because already, as you said, the Italian community was established here,
and it became fashionable as well.
Yeah. There was new waves of migration by the time I was going to school. And so I didn't have, nobody called me derogatory names at school. I never got made fun of for having panini col salame. I did get made fun of for eating fennel at school because my friends thought it was onion, but that's probably the extent of that. But I was thinking before this, the usual question of, do you feel more Italian or Australian? And I was kind of thinking that if you had asked me that question at different points in my life, I would have given a different answer. When I was a kid in primary school and sort of mid-teens, I would have said that I was Australian because I wanted to fit in.
Of course.
But for me, it was just normal going home and speaking Italian and then going to school and speaking in English. It wasn't strange to me. But kind of, the times that I started noticing the differences in the cultures were more when I went to high school, because I had the strict Sicilian parents who wouldn't let me go out with my friends. And my friends, even if they were of Italian background, their parents had already moved on from those strict upbringings, and so they didn't experience that either. So I couldn't even find similar experiences with my Italian friends. It was very interesting.
It's interesting to see that you kind of experience the Italian household. There's also a lot of protection. Sometimes it's overprotective, right?
Yes, yeah.
I know that parents in Italy are also like that. So that's something that is still happening. A little bit less nowadays. Can imagine also my parents were very protective with my sister. With me, kind of a little bit less, let's say. But my sister was overprotected, especially by my father. So I can imagine that you had like strict timing to come back home. Or,
Oh yeah.
or not going out at all.
Most of the time not going out at all. When I started going out with friends, like after I was 18, that was when the real drama started to happen, because, my dad would want me home at 11 o'clock and nothing is open. And people are arriving at 11 o'clock. And my saving grace at the time, because my friends didn't understand that. Why is your dad saying this? Why is he so angry? They couldn't get it. And it's difficult to explain, no, it's just because he's Italian, things like that. My saving grace at the time was that I had a cousin who had just moved here from Italy, who had moved from Sicily, and so he would come out with us, and that was my ticket to being allowed out.
The family protection was still going on.
Exactly.
The protective cousin, that's great. So also probably you helped your cousin integrating, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he integrated very quickly. He picked up English really quickly, and he integrated really well. But I think we did kind of support each other in those years. I feel very comfortable when I am with him and his wife, who's now my cousin. We see each other quite often, and I feel like I don't need to explain things.
Of course.
They just get it straight away, and they understand and they're supportive of it. Whereas when I do hang out with my sort of friends who aren't Italian, they still don't understand that.
Especially some elements that come with hospitality, which is, that's what I feel. I moved here 10 years ago, and I feel like sometimes I need to explain when Italians are very hospitable.
Yes.
Which, what happens here is that sometimes it's misunderstood.
Yes.
So you need to explain, when you come here, when you come to my place, the first thing I do, I offer you something.
Yes.
So kind of, when I have Mediterranean people, which is, can be Lebanese as well, Greeks, Turkish people, they understand straight away. They come at home, want a coffee? Yes, no, they don't need to explain too much. I totally understand that. But also, going back to the, the protective side of your family, it was a little bit tiring to see your friends having more freedom in what they wanted to do during their adolescence and post-adolescence. And I imagine being sad sometimes, being stuck at home. But in perspective, do you think that brought you some value in your adulthood?
I don't know, because I am quite an introverted person. So I don't know if that was already existent before, or if it kind of was created out of the staying at home. So, even once I was older and I could choose to go out with my friends at 2 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't. I would rather be in bed with a book. But I think it sort of, I'm also an only child, so I know how to, let's say, entertain myself.
Okay.
And so I am comfortable in that world. But I do think that the needing, it was a lot easier for me in the, like, let's say there was a situation where my friends would say, oh, we're going out clubbing on Friday, do you want to come? It was a lot easier for me to just say, no, I can't come, than to go through the whole process of the arguing and because it would get very dramatic.
Yeah, of course.
And so you have to kind of mentally prepare yourself for the battle. And then in the end, you kind of think, is it worth it?
Yeah. So it was easier for you to accept it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And maybe that brought you value because the job that you have now involves a lot of planning. So staying by yourself, thinking, a lot of reflection on what to do in your events. And that's related to the next question. So how did you end up working for Co.As.It? So what was your route to Co.As.It? So what happened?
So I didn't know what I wanted to do when I finished high school. I had a teacher of mine at the time, who was my Italian teacher, said to me, look, you're good at Italian, why don't you do something with that? So I didn't know what to do. I kind of thought, oh, well, I might have a go at being maybe a translator or an interpreter, because I was used to being an interpreter for my parents anyways, because I would go to them, you know, what immigrant children are usually used to, going to the doctors, and I think as soon as I could read and write, I was filling out census forms and things like
of course.
that.
Also with the teachers maybe sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went to university and I did a Bachelor of Arts at Monash with a major in Italian, with the idea to then go and do translation at Monash. And I saw that there was an internship here at Co.As.It to help translate the Historical Society Journal. So I thought, fantastic, it'll be some experience, I can give it a go. And so I came, I did an internship with my now manager, Paolo, and it was great. I had always loved history, and so suddenly I was exposed to this whole concept of working in a museum, and I thought, what better place to work than a museum that has to do with my own culture and my own background. So when I finished my bachelor, instead of going on to the Masters of Translation, I went on and I did a postgraduate in museum studies. And I continued volunteering here at Co.As.It for a couple of years, and then 2021 I was brought on board. I started first at the Historical Society for a few years, and I was always very vocal about needing things for a younger generation.
Of course, yeah. I can see that you really spend a lot of time to develop good programs and good events. Yeah.
Thank you. So eventually, they said to me, sort of, you keep suggesting this thing, how about you give it a go?
They open all the doors for you because they saw some potential in that.
Yeah, and it was a gradual process, because obviously with any new thing, there's a little bit of trepidation. So it was sort of, trying one event and then another event and seeing if it worked, and that eventually led to NextGen. And now we're kind of continuing the events that we know have worked in the past and slowly coming up with new things for the future. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's nice. And I feel like sometimes for a young kid growing in this society, sometimes did it feel like you had superpowers where you could switch between, you could speak your own secret Italian language with the people that you knew?
Oh, you know what? That's a good way of calling it a superpower. I mean, I used definitely with my mum,
You could have your secret language.
Yeah, like in public if we wanted to talk about something, which is funny because then when I took mum for the first time back in Italy a couple of years ago, I realised that we couldn't do that because people are understanding Italian, so we had to switch over into English to talk, and it felt so strange to me.
Yeah.
And I used to do the same with a few friends in high school, sort of talking Italian amongst ourselves. But yeah,
that's a value that Greeks probably understood more, or anyway, they embraced more this value of a different language. Because I feel like sometimes Italians, when they moved here, they wanted to integrate so quickly.
Yeah.
And they wanted to avoid being discriminated, that they didn't let the kids learn proper Italian sometimes, because they wanted them to not suffer like they did. While Greeks, they embrace their language so strongly that you can see grandsons, grandkids, that they still speak perfect Greek, and it's their secret language, their code, And this is great because you really are in the middle between. You're like in a crossroads. I don't want to repeat this word, but you're in a crossroads where you can manage talking with older generation Italian in English and new generations in Italian and in English, and you are probably in the best spot now with the NextGen program, which now you are the coordinator, and actually you created this NextGen program. Yes.
Yeah.
And what's the future of the program?
My main thing was that I've always wanted NextGen to be a real sort of community space for people my age. So this year I'd really like to do more things that bring people together. Not, I think the events that we do like Vinello Pinello, they're really fun and things like that. But I'd like to do also more sort of just opportunities for people to meet in smaller groups and talk and get to know each other, and like round table discussions and things like that. So, and I'd also like to hear from the community what they want, because I'm very aware that what I might think is a good event is just based on my experience. But there are other people of different ages and different experiences who would have other things that they would like to see or they would want to see. And my opinion has always been that a program that's made for the community should have community input.
Of course, yes.
So, which we've already done through a lot of the events that we have done in the past years have been, somebody contacting me or saying, what do you think about this and what do you think about that? And my rule has always been, as long as it gets approved, I'm willing to try anything once.
Yes, that's good,
and then if people like it, then we do it again. And we keep following that whole process.
Also because nowadays, the Western society in Europe and also in our English-speaking society is not that different, because, the globalization a little bit, but also the way social media and internet is designed, now we can access to very similar contents.
Yeah.
So whatever works for new generation, for the next generations here in Melbourne, it might work for the Italians that just moved here. For example, like we mentioned in other episodes, you're doing the Zumba classes, Vinello Pennello, which is wine and brush. So, there are events that everyone can embrace, even people that have nothing to do with the Italian, with the Italian community or culture. And it's very nice that you are trying to experiment. And what's your dream? What's your dream for the future with Co.As.It? What do you have something that you plan that might happen in 1, 2, 3 years, or maybe in 6 months?
I would
something big,
something big. I would absolutely love to start some sort of youth club or youth association, whatever name you'd like to call it, but essentially a group where people can feel like they belong. Because that's my whole... You were talking before about how I'm this crossroads between generations, and so identity has always been one of those themes that's been forefront in my life, trying to find sort of where you belong. And I've kind of come to the realization now that I'm not just Italian, I'm not just Australian, but it's a spectrum. And so wherever you fit in on that spectrum, I'd like for Co.As.It to be a place where you feel comfortable to come, even if it's just to have a chat, or if you come for one of the events or anything like that. I'd like for it to be a safe space, let's say, for the community. So potentially through something like a youth club or a youth association, that might be the best way to do it. So, yeah.
That's great. Also reminding our listeners that the Co.As.It space is already a very safe space. Even if you just want to come here and pick a book and read and sit down and relax, it's fantastic. Especially considering what just happened now. There is a news that we are going to share to our community, that we have a new deal with Feltrinelli, which is the library that was facilitated by Luca Esposito and Co.As.It in general, which means that we're gonna have a huge intake of Italian books. And the library is already great, and there are books that they are very hard to find even in Italy, and they're very interesting. It's not only the classics, the classic literature. It's also contemporary true crime or thriller books or history books. They're fantastic. So anytime there is a moment that you don't know where to go, you wanna stay in a place where there is a little bit of silence, or you wanna chill out, you wanna meet Italians, this could be a good place for you. But what's next? What's the real highlights of the next months for NextGen?
Well, we're starting slow. It's the start of the year and we're all still a bit lethargic. There
are a couple of very interesting events. There is the short movie, right?
Yes. So the first event of the year, we have a screening of Don't Ignore Me, which is a short film that's nominated for an ACTA award, which is the Australian cinema, and it's I believe it's like an 8-minute short film about sort of the use of phones and addiction to phones. It stars and is produced by an Italian actor, Rosangela Fasano, and it was directed by a 15-year-old director and shot completely on a mobile phone. So, it's got a lot of points that I really want to introduce to the community, these sort of the future of cinema in Australia and women in cinema, and how Italians are continuing to contribute to the Italian industry, to the Australian cinema industry. And so I think it'll be really, really cool. We're starting back with our Wellness in Italian in February, and that will continue monthly. First Saturday of every month, unless there's a public holiday, and then it's the second Saturday. And then in March, we'll start up again with Vinello e Pennello.
Fantastic.
And then from there, we'll keep doing new things.
Fantastic. Yeah. I want to thank Carmelina for your time. This was a very nice chat.
Thank you, Stefano.
I'm pretty sure we're going to chat more and more, because it's very interesting to know what's happening in the Italian community, especially the contemporary one. And to all our listeners, from me and Carmelina, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, and see you at the next episode. Ciao.
Ciao, grazie a tutti.